Amen. Okay, I feel kind of at home here, you know? Y'all are my kind of people. So I want to get right to work, if that's okay. This is fresh content. So Brian and I were texting back and forth about the event after this one, and I just always like to ask, what do God's people need to hear? And so when we're over there, if y'all are going to that, if you're not, just join us, it'll be great. He wanted to talk about going all in. And then I said, so what about with this group? And he said, I think having a discussion about how to build a Christ-like culture at your business would be great for everybody. And so I thought, well, okay, I don't know if you're taking notes, but either way, do this. So if you'll Google Donnie Smith servant leadership, it's going to come up with several videos. Right Now Media, I've done a lot of stuff for them. But the one I really want to challenge you to listen to or watch is the talk I did at Cedarville College in Ohio. It's a talk about servant leadership. If I was a preacher, I would call that my sugar stick talk. But I think of all the times I've given that talk, that was the best one I ever did. And it was the one that tied scripture to the points of what it means to be a servant leader the best. So I would encourage you, if you want to, watch that video. And a lot of what I'll talk about tonight, you'll kind of rehear it in a different form if you do watch that video. But as I just prayed about this, I just thought, okay, I want to give a couple of comments about, was that me? Okay. I thought I turned my phone on silent. I want to give a couple of thoughts about culture in general. And then I just want to go down a list of 7 principles of a Christ-like culture and hope they resonate with you. I hope they spawn a question or two. But I really feel like God has sort of kind of distilled some of the thoughts down, and they're all very biblically based. And hopefully, I told Brian a little earlier, feedback's a gift. Since this is new content, I would love your feedback. And I'm good with anything. I'm great with honest feedback because that's how you get better, right? So a couple things about culture and then we'll dive in. First, Peter Drucker, great business management consultant from years and years ago, said culture eats strategy for breakfast. And I'll tell you what I'll do. I will lay my playbook on the 50-yard line and I will beat you 10 times out of 10 if I've got a team that's working together in a culture that values each other. That's just how you win. Brian was talking about, and I'm not going to brag about anything I've done because it's all Jesus and we had a great team. But in the 7 years our team led the company, we multiplied the value of that company 6 times in those 7 years. We created $25 billion worth of market equity. And on top of that, maybe the most important thing is our quality was never better. Our turnover was never lower. Our food safety metrics were never better. Our safety metrics were never better. Because during that period of time, the people at Tyson, they didn't just know that we valued them, they knew we loved them because we talked about that openly. I don't want you to do that unsafe thing because I love you and I want you to go home to your family with all 10 fingers and all 10 toes. And that's stupid, so you need to stop. I might have cleaned that up a little bit, but not much, right? So I say that to say this. We did have a great run at Tyson, but it was really because of two things. Number one, our leadership team made the conscious choice that regardless of how any of this turned out, we were going to do everything we did to honor God. And this is a secular company, right? And the second thing is we decided that the main thing we needed to do was teach people how to lead. And so we spent a ton of time developing our leadership philosophy, if you want to call that, and a leadership style of servant leadership. And we developed a culture which is the soil that leadership style grew in. Because culture, people talk a lot about their business values. I'm going to tell you culture's different. Your core values talk about what you believe. We should be honorable people. We should do that. We should be this. We should be that. Culture's different. I'll give you a quick test. All right. How many of you believe we should all be law-abiding citizens? Awesome. How many of you only drive the speed limit on the interstate? You liar. I know you're lying. I'm in a room with a bunch of hypocrites, right? But here's the point. We all believe we should be law-abiding citizens, but it's really important to get to wherever you're going 10 minutes faster by doing 7 miles above the speed limit on the interstate to get there, right? That's important. So my culture is I'm going to do about 7 to 10 miles over the speed limit on the interstate with Waze on, which gives me some protection against knowing where the police are. But when I'm in town, I'm going to obey the speed limit, and I am very strict in the school zone because I don't want to hurt anybody. So just a description, right? So I'm not going to talk about beliefs here. Now, your beliefs should inform your behaviors, but we all know we don't behave like we believe. If we did, we'd all tithe. Right? So I'm only going to talk about 7 behaviors that I believe. One last thing. No two businesses are the same. There are general principles that apply to all, and I've tried to get above a lot of distinctions between businesses, but there's very little resemblance of anything that I ever did that Elon Musk is doing. Right? So the way I've learned culture is growing up in an agricultural food company. That's the way I've learned culture. I know what works there. So if something comes up here that doesn't apply exactly, I think I'm high enough up in the principle network that most of it will, and you'll find ways to drill down. But if it doesn't, okay, it doesn't, right? There's probably some other thing in your business that would fit that slot better for you. Does that make sense? Okay? All right, let's get started and I'll quit rambling. First, serve first. By the way, I'm going to give my notes to Brian and I'll even send him the email. So if you don't take a bunch of notes and don't want to watch the video, he'll have everything. Serve first and lead with humility. Let me give you 2 verses. Mark 10:43. Well, let me tell you the story. So the sons of thunder, they were James and John. Okay, they come to Jesus and said, we got a favor to ask. He had a great answer. What do you want? And never say, okay, because you don't know what kind of stupid question you might be getting, right? So, what do you want? Well, when you get to your kingdom, we'd like to sit on your right and your left. In other words, we get you're going to be the CEO, but we'd like to be co-COOs if that's okay with you. And he says, you have no idea about the cup that you're about to drink. Are you willing to drink it? Oh, sure, man, we're the sons of thunder. You don't understand. We're the man. And then Jesus just changes the conversation and says, you know that the Gentiles lord it over you and exercise their authority. 2 things. They lord themselves over you. They're going to make sure you know who the boss is. And then they don't just have authority, they exercise it. Right? I mean, they go out of their way to give you stuff to do to make sure you know you ain't the boss. And Jesus said, his next comment says everything we need to know about leadership. It is not so to be among you. You are not to lord it over your people, and you are not to exercise authority. And then he says it all. For the Son of Man, even the Son of God, didn't come to earth to be served, but to serve and to give his life a ransom for many. That's how we're supposed to lead. Lead first. And then it's important, though, to lead with humility. And I can't separate. See, It's not my job as the boss to prove I'm the smartest person in the room. My job is to enable the people that work for me to be their best. A couple of notes I made here. We lead by serving, by listening, by accepting responsibility, and by putting the good of others ahead of the good for ourselves. Leadership is a responsibility. It's not a right, and it's not a privilege. It's a responsibility. What does this look like? We admit mistakes. As a leader, we're willing to ask for help. As a leader, we're willing to listen to the people closest to work. That's why we go to the job sites, right? We're willing to change our mind and to let others change our mind. And we don't confuse authority with being right. Here's a great question for you as a leader. What am I missing? Because that tells them you've put a lot of thought into this decision-making process, but it also tells them that you respect them and you value them as your team members to be smart enough to know if there's something you might be missing and to have the courage to be able to tell you, because it's not your job to always be right. It's just your job to own the decision. Look, my team, man, they gave me constant feedback because I didn't have to be right. I just had to be the one that made the call. Does that make sense? So we serve with humility. That's the first thing. Number two, to build a great culture, we got to do the right thing. We got to always hold integrity above results. I can't tell you how many times I've seen a leader blow themselves up because they mistook, I work a lot in Africa. Some of the poorest people on the planet. They don't get many choices. But everybody in this room, y'all have choices that the majority of the population of the world don't have. Where you live, what you drive, what you wear, what kind of house you live in, what kind of vacations you go on, et cetera, right? But there's two choices that I think you have that are unique to you. Number one, that first one, you get to pick your standard of living. Right? Second thing you get to pick your standards for living. That's where the integrity part comes in, is I'm going to honor God. I'm going to be faithful to my family. I decide to be generous, et cetera, whatever fits you. I've seen so many leaders that are willing to sacrifice their standards for living because of their standard of living. They'll compromise on a business decision. They'll compromise on some honesty issues. They'll compromise on expense report. I had to fire a guy for buying a backpack on his expense report. That is a terrible reason to get fired. But he lied. And he had the money in his wallet to buy that backpack. Why would you sacrifice your career for a backpack? I don't understand a lot of it, but it happens. Let me give you a few points about this one. Actually, I'm going to move on for a second time. I think y'all got that one. We value people. Actually, we don't just value people, we love people. Most of you in this room, you don't get paid for what you do. You get paid for what you get done, right? And you get everything you get done through people, right? I mean, are you literally building the buildings? No. But you've got great leaders who are leading leaders who are leading leaders who are leading people on that are building the buildings, right? Sure. Every person has inherent value. Here's what this looks like in practice. Listen before judging. Treat your hourly and your salary and your executive team members with equal dignity. I'm not going to say the same, but I'm going to say with equal dignity. I knew the name of the people that cleaned up the executive wing. I knew about their families, and I gave them a great little gift on my desk every year for Christmas because they matter to me. But I would see people in the hallway. I'd be walking down the hallway. They would walk past 3 clerks to say hi to me. I proved what I was worth to Tyson Foods on January the 4th of 2017. I didn't show up. I was done. Now, if the chickens, the hogs, the cattle, and what few turkeys we processed didn't show up, we'd have been in a world of hurt. So who was really the most important part of the company, right? But my point is that love your people. There's a great verse in Proverbs 27:20. It's actually 23:27. Here, it should be in my notes. 23:27 or 27:23. 27:23. Know well the condition of your flocks and pay attention to your herds. You ought to be an expert on your people, and your people ought to know that you love them. Just by the way you treat them, and you show them, you give them dignity, you give them respect. And look, some of them are weird, right? And some of them believe 180 degrees different from you. I've got a dear, dear friend that is Islam. And I mean, he's been to Saudi on the Hajj. He is full meal deal Islam. He's like a brother to me. Now, he thinks I'm a little crazy. He would tell you Donnie Smith is a great guy, and if there's anybody that's ever going to heaven, it's going to be Donnie Smith. That's what he would say. But he won't say that about me. I'm as good a guy as he is, and he says I can't get into heaven unless I accept Jesus as my Savior. Well, one of the two of us is right. I'm betting on me. Right? But he knows I love him. Even in the differences, I can love him. You know, one of my constant prayers is, God, help me to love people who sin differently than I do. There's a great book, Love Does, by Bob Goff. If you hadn't read it, get a copy of that book. It is a fantastic book. All right, got to move on. Number 4. Pursue excellence with high standards and grace. Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart. Colossians 3:23. As a business person that's a believer, you've probably heard that a lot. Ecclesiastes 9:10 is one of my favorite verses. Whatever your hand finds to do, do it with all your might. Whatever your hand finds to do, your job, do it with everything you got. Go all out. Perfection can't ever be our standard because nobody's ever going to get there but Jesus. But excellence is our standard. But you don't have to compromise being gracious to get excellence. I've got a good friend. Matter of fact, saw him this past week in Florida. As I moved up, I pulled him into the job I had when I moved up into retail. And somebody called him in the hall one day and said, Mike, it must be awesome working for Donnie again. He said, are you kidding me? That guy has insane standards. I just hope I can live up to his expectations. Yeah, but he's such a nice guy. Well, what difference does that make? He never gives. He expects this, our best, and excellence, and nothing less. And that's all we talk about. But Mike knew I loved him. Mike had a massive heart attack 7 or 8 years ago. 10 years ago, praise God. Doing great today. And I moved heaven and earth to make sure that his family could go. He was at UC Keck on ECMO for like a month or 40 days or something. At Keck, they call him Miracle Mike because he should not have lived. And he has like a couple of tinglings in a foot. He should have lost multiple limbs. But he's just a miracle. God put his hand on him and saved his life. And we moved heaven and earth to get his family out there to where they could be close to him while he was going through that. Mike would do anything for me because he knows I love him. And I'd do anything again for Mike because I love him. And we worked together for years and never once let each other off the hook. Always held each other accountable for what we said we were going to do. But we did it with grace. So here's a couple things the way that looks. And let's talk about first the not lowering high expectations. Set high standards, be disciplined to get there, continuously improve your processes, measure results, and expect people to take ownership. Now, let's balance that with the grace part. Grace does not mean lowering your standards. It means holding high standards while treating people with grace. Here's what that looks like. If you have high grace and low accountability, that's going to give you mediocrity. If you have low grace and high accountability, that's going to be a culture of fear. If you have low grace and low accountability, well, that's just total dysfunction. You're not going to be in business long. Start looking for work. But if you have high grace and high accountability, you're going to get excellence. Another great book to read is The Advantage by Patrick Lencioni. Maybe some of you read it. Patrick, he talks about a pyramid and well, this is part of 5 dysfunctions of a team, but he doesn't tell the allegory in this book, so I like this book better. But you start with trust, and then you actually seek conflict. And then once you've got everything out in the open, you get a commitment. We're going to go do this. Then once you have a commitment, you can hold people accountable. And once you hold people accountable in that environment where it's not personal, I'm just doing what I said I committed to do, that's when you get results. That's the high grace, high accountability culture that we're looking for. All right. Number 5, speak truth with courage and love. Ephesians 4:15, speak forth the truth in love. I really struggle with this one, don't you think, Brian? Yes, yeah. Healthy cultures don't avoid tough conversations. Address problems quickly. Problems are not like cheese. They don't get better with age. They rot. Don't gossip. Give honest feedback. Seasoned with a little grace. Speak forth the truth in love. Don't punish people for bringing bad news. Don't shoot the messenger. And separate the person from the problem. I can't stand a blame culture. I don't believe ever in my career I ever asked whose fault was that. I don't believe I ever did that. Because I saw it in the company so much for so long. It didn't matter what happened. It mattered who did it. That doesn't fix the problem. So what we chose to what happened and what can we do about it? And you're going to get to the whodunit part in the process anyway, but just focus on what the problem is and how do we fix it. Start there, because when it becomes more important for you to blame somebody for it than fixing the problem, you're losing. All right, number 6, build people and teams. We're going to win together, or we're not going to win. Couple verses that come to mind here. The beginning part of the kenosis. Look not only to your own interest, but to the interest of others. 2 Timothy 2:2. Whatever you have heard and seen, heard from me in the presence of many witnesses, entrust to faithful men who will be able to teach others also. Leaders' greatest legacy is not what they accomplished. It's who became better because of their leadership. 2 of the guys on my leadership team have led the company since I left. That's probably, well, I don't know. I really think the safety and the culture we built around the safety of our food and the quality of our food while we were doing that and took care of our team, I think that's probably what I'm proudest of. But just right underneath that is the fact that we developed great leaders that have led the company since. Now, they went outside a few times, never worked. But the two that were two of the three that were from inside the company, that had been there the longest, by the way, have done the best job. Coach rather than criticize. Give people meaningful responsibility. Identify potential. Mentor future leaders. And give people opportunities to stretch and grow. I'm so glad, I don't know what ever possessed him to do it, but I'm so glad Tyson did that for me. Most of the jobs that they offered me, all of the jobs they had offered me I never did before, and most of them I had a high percentage chance of failing. Steward what we've been entrusted with. The business, its people, its resources, its customers, and its opportunities are things that we don't own. We steward. I really believed that Tyson Foods was God's business. And I was just there to steward it for as long as they wanted me to. A good friend of mine, Steve Graves, he's an executive business coach. He wrote a book recently about stewardship. And he's got this daily prayer. Here it is. Lord, I acknowledge that I'm a steward and you are the owner. Think about this if you're an entrepreneur, if you own your own business. Thanks for everything you've entrusted to me. Help me to fear not, fret not, and faint not. Guard my heart and guide my steps. I release control of all I have and all I am to you. Please work what's best. Isn't that not a great daily prayer? I've written that in my prayer book, pray it every day. So if I was summing this up quickly, I would say, serve first, do the right thing, love people, pursue excellence, speak the truth with love, build people and teams, and steward what we've been given. You are responsible for how your people spend a third of their life. Probably the largest single segment of their life's time, at least during their working years, you control that environment. Those of us that bear the name of Christ should take that responsibility really seriously. Because you can make them miserable. And I heard a preacher say one time, some mornings I wake up and I say, good morning, Lord. And some mornings I wake up and say, good Lord, morning. You're responsible for those. You're responsible for that. And creating that culture that here's how we do work together, leading them as a servant, I'm telling you, it can change lives. Thank y'all.
Y'all all know Stan Lingo, needs no introduction, but instead of me interviewing Donnie, asking him a couple questions so that we could save time from the room, I'll ask him, who better than one of the greatest business owners in Oklahoma City, Stan Lingo. So Stan, I'm going to turn it over to you, and then I'll wrap us up here at the end. Forget that microphone.
Okay. I'm not sure about the greatest in Oklahoma City, but we'll dive in some questions.
Take what you can get.
Yes. So I got to meet Donnie 2021. Got to go to his house, spend an evening with him, and I got my notes that I took at that time, and I find it really interesting that he has not changed since 2021. And one of the things that I wrote down was, God always puts me in front of something broke. Yeah. My job was a fixer, and because I knew nothing about it, God gets the glory.
Yeah.
Talk about that really quickly. We're going to hit about 6 questions.
Okay,
so
great. I'll go fast.
Okay.
So I think everybody's got a purpose, right? Well, I don't think that. Scratch that. I know everybody's got a purpose. God, you are not a mistake. God's got you here for a reason. Okay. I'm a builder. God made me to build food systems and leaders. That's what I believe He made me do. And the way I've learned to connect with people is by being able to understand what you go through when you're put in a position to where you got your people, the mess you've got, and God. And I always went into those things, again, 3 questions. What are we good at? What are we not good at? And if you were me, what would you do? And I'm telling you, listen, nobody wants to come to work and be miserable every day. And they know what's wrong, right? And most of them know how to fix it. But they've never had a leader humble himself and say, what are we good at? What are we not good at? And what would you do? So I just ask them that. 100%, I don't know how many departments, groups, business units, whatever, that I've gotten through the years. But I'm 100% for 100% of them telling me what we got to work with, what's broke, and how to fix it. 100% of the time. And that's been it.
Yep, that's what I expected, actually. So that's great. And then the second thing would be, at least from what I've heard and followed, 6 or 7 individual tasks in your time at Tyson or more. How did you take a secular company, find the leaders in each place, and elevate them into your leadership team?
Yeah, I have a formula. Probably not surprising, right? I call it Donnie's 10 that win. 5 I's, 3 R's, DQ, and C. So 5 I's. Boy, I hope I can remember them. Integrity, you cannot work for me if I can't trust you. All right? Intelligence, simple rule. Right? Smart people do smart stuff, average people do average stuff, and dumb people do dumb stuff. Don't hire dumb people. They do dumb stuff. Right? Innovation. You may not be the most, I never thought up a new product for our company, but I created an environment where it was okay to fail. Now, you couldn't fail to execute. In other words, you could goof up, you just couldn't goof off, right? And then, where am I at? Integrity, intelligence, innovation, inspiration. Can't define it, but you know what inspires you, and most of the time that inspires somebody else, okay? And then the last I is interpersonal skills. I didn't get paid for what I got done. I got paid for what I got done through people. So I built how to connect with people. That's so important. How to talk to them, how to make them feel you don't think you're better than them. How do you make them feel you would never give them anything to do that you wouldn't be willing to do? When you do that, they'll trust you, right? 3 R's. Resilience, we live in a tough world, right? Results, leaders get results, period. And what's the third one, Terry? I'll come back to it if I remember it. If not, I'll just blurt it out when God puts it back in my head. And then DQ is decision quality. Look, people frustrate me to no end when they got to have 90% of the available knowledge to make a decision. I need to go fast, right? My competition is running to catch up with me. So get about 60% of the available information, make the call, trust your gut, and move on. If it's not exactly right, tweak it along the way, improve the process, but keep moving, right? And then courage. It takes courage to be this different. I mean, some of y'all are already going, that guy's crazy. Yep, doesn't bother me a bit. I'm having the time of my life. There you go.
That's great. Did you write all those down? Great.
I owe you 1 R.
There's four sayings that I wrote down that I hear these in Brian as well, so I know he listened to you some, is that leaders pick up trash, that leaders serve from the middle, that shepherds smell like sheep, and have fun as a group. Which one do you like best of those?
Shepherds smell like sheep. Proverbs 23:27. Know well the condition of your flock and pay attention to your herd. Most leaders are so worried about smelling like Giorgio Armani. The person in the break room wants you to stink a little bit because you've been on the job site or you've been out in the field or you've been in the plant or they would really like to take courage in the fact that you know something. Yeah, they don't want you to be an expert, but they want you to know something about what we're doing, right? People respect leaders that want to understand what they're asking their people to do every day. Shepherds smell like sheep.
That's good. I like the word that you used, gut, because I actually wrote this down. So one of the things I'm working on with my team is how do you build the confidence in your team to make that 60% knowledge decision, to make the gut decision. Gut is a really important word in my life right now.
Yeah. I think, so we talked in the prepared stuff, we talked about blame, right? You got to take, the greatest thing a leader can do for an organization is take fear out of the organization. Right. We had a lady one time, I'll get a real quick story. She was doing a new product. It was a total mess up. Didn't work. It didn't last in the marketplace 5 weeks. So in our all hands meetings, we would talk about success stories, but we also talked about fail forward stories. So we brought her up and she was really nervous, but I had told her, I said, look, we will all learn from you, and you have the courage to do this. So just get up there and tell them what happened. It's fine. So she did. And in the process of screwing up this new product line, we had to cut our breast meat in a certain way. And so, and she said, the only saving grace is we found this new cut on breast meat, and, I think it's helping. So I said, who's doing that cut? I am. How much money is that making you a year? $1 million. Huh? Well, your plant's making $1 million more on breast meat costs because of this cut. Anybody else doing it? Yeah, we are. What do you got? $1.2 million. Anybody else? Yeah, we're doing it. What do you got? We're a big plant. We got $1.7 million. 3, we're making $4.2 million a year on this failed product. Go screw something else up, would you? This is awesome. But that took all of the, they're never going to blame me for just making an honest mistake and trying to do something that didn't work. And that started giving people guts to take a shot. And we take a shot. Who knows, it might work.
This is another thing I've seen in Brian that maybe I've seen in you as well. You know your numbers. I've heard you talk about learning about bonds and how to raise money and balance sheets on the back of a plane or back of a bus.
Yeah.
I've heard you talk about a chicken grows at this much feed rate and we increased it to this.
Yeah.
I hear in Africa, like, we have produced a chicken for this, for that.
Yeah.
I hear this in Brian, like, know your numbers.
Yeah.
And it's just not numbers. Every number has a meaning, a name, whatever you want to look at. Talk about knowing your numbers, because a lot of business leaders in here that need to know their numbers.
So your monthly, quarterly, whatever you do financials, there's 3 major documents, right, that you care about: the income statement, the balance sheet, and the cash flow statement. Those are like sheet music. And they all play in harmony. Now, the music may suck, but they play in harmony. And so for years, growing up on the cost side of the business in departments, all I cared about was cost, and I learned to respect the income statement because it told me a lot about cost. But we weren't about, when we almost went broke. We weren't going to go broke because of our cost. Well, it's part of the problem, but we weren't going to go broke for not making money. We were going to go broke because we ran out of cash. And that taught me how important the cash flow statement and the balance sheet are. So all 3 of those, I had a quick story on my group in Africa. The MD of my foundation that was over there, and then there's a managing director of the poultry business itself. So they were showing at the time that they were making about $20,000 a week, but every week cash was running out of the balance sheet. And I said, something's wrong. Well, yeah, our accountant, Philbert, he's an idiot. We're going to get a better accountant. I said, nah, unless somebody's cooking the numbers, something is desperately wrong. Well, this young lady at the time thought she needed to be the smartest person in the room, so she kept telling the former Fortune 100 CEO, he didn't know what he was talking about. And so we got to a point where it just hit the wall. And we had a group that stole it's a small company. They stole $300,000 for us by cooking the books. And I could see it on the balance sheet because the cash number was out of tune. Make sense? That's how important knowing your numbers is.
Yep. 2 more questions? Got time? Great. How do you bring people along when you have a big vision And
Relationships.
yep, you bring people along.
Relationships. That's the R word. Yeah.
There it is.
I don't know how it happens.
I didn't think that was the answer.
No, I don't know how it happens. It just does.
That's good.
Sorry, go ahead.
So how do you
I'm back with you now.
Yeah. How do you bring people along when you have a big vision? And I mean, you're 100%, your gut says, this is the vision. Yeah. But maybe the background's not fully vetted that it's going to happen. But you're convinced. How do you
Yeah.
bring that along?
So I had a lady, Rachel Davenport, that did a lot of org development and organizational work for me. And I was up on the board, just like you said, man. I was drawing it all out and all this. And she said, Donnie, stop. What? She said, is there anything anybody could say to you right now that would change your mind? I said, well, no, I'm right. And she said, right now, you're the most dangerous I've ever seen you. So when we created the purpose statement for Tyson, call it our vision, I kind of had a lean, I kind of knew, but it was important to get their buy-in. And so by business unit and others, we just sort of found a way through, groups and all this kind of stuff. Now, by the way, it slowed things down, which frustrated me to death. But we got it right. And so getting them involved in the vision is really important. Whether it's a church or the business, civic organization, anything, getting the people involved in the visioning about where they want to be. And you'll be able to guide them and tweak things and nudge a little bit along the way if you think they're off by 10 or 15 degrees. But then sometimes they just say, look, that ain't us. And you need to respect that because they're doing it every day. That's how we did it at Tyson. And we, bless God, we got it right.
That's good. I'm going to ask one more question, then we'll ask one from the crowd. Is that all right? Sure. Okay. A lot of business owners and spouses in the room. Talk about the spouse side.
Okay. Terry, so I viewed my role at Tyson, in every role I had at Tyson, as my calling. And I believe I'm just as called as he is. But I'm called to a different field, mission field, whatever. But I was called to be there, and I was called to honor God with excellent work and building a great culture and teaching people how to lead like Jesus. That's what I was called to do. And she understood that. And so she never viewed, and I never worked less than 60, 65 hours a week. Never. I mean, not from the beginning, because I was always given stuff that were a mess. And so I always, until I could get a team built that I could delegate stuff to, I was always at it, right? And then once I did that, they moved me on to the next mess. So I was at it again. But she never viewed my job as her competition. She viewed my job as a ministry where I was given a calling to shine my light and to build the kingdom with excellence. Terry has talked to a lot of young ladies groups. I used to mentor several upper 30s, low 40s guys because, man, they were in the thick of it. That's hard. And, there's this one guy, his neighbor came home at 3 and played with his kids, and she was on him constantly about how much he worked. And after Terry talked to her about, look, that's his mission field. He's influencing people for Jesus while he's doing that, or he should be. Back off, because this whole thing about work-life balance, I'm telling you, that concept was developed by somebody, I won't say evil, but at least riding a gravy train with biscuit wheels. Because, this idea that I can, have a great career, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, get home, play with the kids, help with dinner, help with the homework, put the kids down, have a 2-hour romantic evening, go to bed and get up. We never lived that life one day. And I really think we honored God with what we did. So I believe in proactive work-life rebalancing. Let me define that. Y'all get together every Sunday. You get your calendar out, you get your calendar out. And then y'all go through the calendars, and we would do this all the time. I got this, I'm going to be in New York on a road show Monday and Tuesday. I come back, Elanco's in town, I got to go to dinner with Jeff. Thursday, I don't have a thing. And then Friday, I'm going to do everything I can do to get off at 3. Never worked, but I tried. So on Thursday night was family night. Right? And then I didn't do a lot on the weekends. I'm sorry for all of you who love packing. I never did that because I'm an introvert. I know you find that a little hard to believe right now, but I am. And giving out wears me out. And for me to be all I needed to be for my family, I had to unplug to recharge so I could go at it again and give them everything I had next week, right? So my weekends, I hung out with them. We've got we didn't at the time, we had rundown boats, but now we got an awesome Mastercraft, and we go out there and wakeboard and stuff, and we spent our time on our family with the youth. Oh my goodness, I like to broke his, we ripped the skin off her thigh and off a tubing. I'll call it an accident. I remember everybody we hurt. I broke our mayor's son's sternum. He jumped off a cliff, idiot. Anyway, but a statement I'm going to make later is people tell me all the time, I know they want me to take that Bible study class and Bible, at church, but I just can't find the time. No. You need to quit holding out and to go all in and all out for Jesus and then find the time. You can find all the time you need to do everything you want to do. You do it every week. That's all I got.
That's good. One from the crowd? Quickly. One from the crowd.
Travis, you talk a lot about, your seven kind of goals of building a culture.
Yeah.
It's a very long-term view
Yes.
of the world. And when you're a private business like Lingo, you have that latitude to kind of take a long-term view. At Tyson Foods, you're not given that latitude.
Yeah.
So how were you able to stick to those 7 goals, knowing once a quarter you had a bunch of analysts lining up to rip you apart?
Yeah, great question, and they did. My first 3 years were brutal because we were fixing the business, but grain markets had gone skyrocketed high, and you couldn't see it on the scoreboard, right? And then all of a sudden in 2012, the grain markets reverted back to the mean, and it was raining cash. And all of a sudden, we're overnight successes. But here's the decision our leadership team made. When we sat down in our chairs, the company was actually being run by consultants because everybody just checked their brain at the door, and they wanted to do whatever McKinsey or PWC or whatever them suggest. Yeah, we'll do that because we have no idea what to do. And so I locked the door. No offense to any consultants. Right? But we were dependent. And what we needed to be was interdependent. We needed to depend on us on our team. So I just locked the door. I said, no more consultants, except for finance. Y'all got to have EW or E&Y, whoever's doing the annual audit. And I said, I would rather fail in a massive disaster with us doing it on our own than I would being such a coward that I can't make a decision. So we're going to fix this thing. And it wasn't popular, but our first year, record sales and earnings. I mean, God just got on it because we were doing it His way. And the street was constant. Well, for the first 3 years, the street was mad at me. The middle 2 years, the street was pleased with me. And the last 2 years, they loved me. So, but none of that mattered. What mattered was my definition of success isn't related to the results. It's doing God's will, God's way. If I'm doing God's will, God's way, listen. God has not called you to be profitable. God has not called you to be successful. God's called you to be faithful. And if we as believers will focus on being faithful to the Word of God and to God's principles, it's amazing. It's amazing what God can do with average. Because listen, I grew up in nowhere, Tennessee. I was a nobody, blah, 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 blah. Right? And I think God looked over at the angels and said, y'all watch this. Because it's all Him. It is 100% Him. I can't take any credit for any reason that I might be here tonight. So that's how we did it. We just did, in our heart of hearts, we were doing His will, His way. And He honored that.
Amen. Y'all show your appreciation to Donnie Smith. Donnie, thank you. Let me ask you one more question. And we're out of time, way out of time. So answer in about 1 minute. All right? You are
Nope.
a very...
Just stop. I can't do it.
Yes, you can.
Okay.
You can do it. Positive feedback. You're a very sacrificial leader, and if I'm right, and just you will tell me if I'm wrong. When you first took the job to get the company back financially healthy, you benched a lot of people flying on the corporate jet.
Oh yeah.
Including yourself.
Yeah.
And you flew commercial.
Yeah.
So that such a sacrificial mindset to get the company going. Can you answer that in 1 minute?
Yeah, look, it is so important for my sales folks and my operational folks to see me in Dallas at 11:20 because they just can't be on time, getting home at, by the time I got to the house, 1:30 at night, and to see my truck in my spot. I didn't have a spot, but I could pick any spot I wanted to because I got there before everybody else did. And so my truck was parked in the parking lot when they showed up. It was important for them to see that because that told them I will never ask them to do anything I wouldn't be willing to do. And I flew on the corporate jet, right. But we needed to make a statement that things had changed, and we were putting others and the mission first, and we were just there to serve others as they accomplished the mission.
Yeah, so good. Don't y'all appreciate Donnie being here? And let me just show my appreciation to each one of you. I know you got a lot going on in your life. You're plenty busy, but you took time to be in the room. He's about to speak to all of our volunteers, and I promise you, you'll take just as many notes in that session, in that moment. Let me say this to you. I'm going to send the link of this video to you, and that will probably come tomorrow. I'll go back through the text list of everybody that said they were coming, and I'll shoot you a text with the link of this video. I'm also going to send you an invite that if you would love to be connected in about just a once-a-month business gathering. Stan's really personally challenged me with this on how we can really add value to all the business leaders and executives throughout Oklahoma City. And one way we could do that was maybe send a once a month, not blow you up. We'll honor your cell phones at every moment of every day. But send just a word of encouragement to you maybe once a month through one of our business leaders in this room. That could be a scripture-based little leadership principle just passing your way. I'm going to send you a way you can sign up for that. We also would invite you, we do a once-a-month gathering called Lingo and Leadership. We look at a spiritual moment in our life, and then we discuss leadership and have just practical conversation around the room. Love to invite every single one of you to be a part of that. We do it on the third Thursday of every single month at 6:30 in the morning at Lingo Construction's corporate office downtown. And so I'd love to extend that invite and maybe even start a future of those along the way in some discipleship versions. So I'm going to send you ways you can get connected with that. All you got to do is respond.